OpenAI is valued at $157 billion. But they lost $5 billion just last year. And this year, they're losing even more. Recent reports show $11 billion gone in just 3 months. Translation: the company behind ChatGPT spends $2.25 for every dollar it makes. They're not just unprofitable, they're spectacularly, historically, impossibly unprofitable. And here's the thing that keeps Silicon Valley up at night. Nobody can explain how they'll ever turn a profit. Not the investors writing 9-figure checks, not the analysts covering the stock, not even Sam Altman himself. This is the story of how the most hyped company in tech became a $5 billion money furnace, and why everyone keeps feeding it more cash anyway. The perfect setup. Let's go back to 2015. A group of tech luminaries, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, gathered in San Francisco with a radical idea. They'd build artificial general intelligence, not to make money, but to save humanity. They called it OpenAI, and they structured it as a nonprofit. Think about that. A nonprofit AI company in Silicon Valley. That's like opening a vegan steakhouse in Texas. But here's where it gets interesting. By 2018, they realized something important. Building godlike AI is expensive, really expensive. Elon Musk had already left, taking his $50 million with him, and OpenAI's leaders were staring at the compute bills thinking, we can't do this on donations. So in 2019, they did something clever, or stupid. History hasn't decided yet. They created a for-profit subsidiary underneath the nonprofit parent, but not a normal for-profit company. A capped profit entity where investors' returns are limited to 100 times their investment. Translation: they needed capitalism's money but didn't want capitalism's rules. Microsoft saw an opportunity. In 2019, they invested $1 billion, then another $2 billion in 2021, then $10 billion more in 2023. Total commitment, $13 billion. To put that in perspective, $13 billion is more than the GDP of 70 countries. It's enough to buy Netflix. It's equivalent to giving every person in Los Angeles $3,000 in cash. And Microsoft isn't just writing checks. They're giving OpenAI something more valuable: unlimited access to their cloud computing. The deal structure is wild. Microsoft gets 75% of OpenAI's profits until they recoup their $13 billion investment. After that, they get 49% of profits until OpenAI has paid them $92 billion total. Only after Microsoft has collected $105 billion, yes, $105 billion US dollars, does OpenAI get to keep its own money. It's basically, here's $13 billion, pay us back at $105 billion, and then it's all yours. The craziest part? Despite having pumped in $13 billion, Microsoft doesn't even get a board seat. They found out Sam Altman was fired only 5 minutes before the rest of the world did. And here's the math that just doesn't add up. November 2022, OpenAI launches ChatGPT. It explodes. 100 million users in 2 months. The fastest growing consumer app in history. Faster than Instagram, faster than TikTok, faster than anything. By 2024, OpenAI is making $3.7 billion in revenue. That sounds impressive, right? Let's break down where that money comes from. About $2.7 billion, roughly 70%, comes from ChatGPT Plus subscriptions, $20 a month from about 10 to 15 million people. Another billion comes from selling API access. That's when other companies pay to use OpenAI's models in their own products. $3.7 billion in revenue. Not bad for a company that didn't even have a product 3 years ago. Here's the problem. It costs OpenAI $9 billion to run their business. Not $3.7 billion, not $5 billion, $9 billion. Let's put you in Sam Altman's shoes for a second. Imagine you're selling lemonade. Each cup costs you $1 to make. How much do you charge? $2? $3? That's called a profit margin. Now, imagine each cup of lemonade costs you $2.43 to make, but you can only charge customers $1. And every time someone buys you lemonade, you lose $1.43. That's OpenAI's business model. Here's where it gets worse. That $9 billion breaks down like this. $3 billion just to train the AI models. That's before they answer a single question. $2 billion to run inference. Translation, the actual compute cost every time ChatGPT responds to you. $700 million in salaries. And that's before stock compensation. Another $700 million paid directly to Microsoft as a revenue share. $500 million for data. Millions more for office space, legal fees, partnerships. Do the math. The $3 billion it cost to train their models completely obliterates their entire subscription revenue. The $2 billion in inference costs eats the rest. And they haven't paid for a single employee yet. They lose money on every free user. They lose money on every paying customer. The more successful they become, the more money they burn. Sam Altman once said ChatGPT's operating costs are eye-watering. A few cents per conversation. A few cents doesn't sound like much until you multiply it by a billion conversations. The spectacular implosion that wasn't. On November 17th, 2023, Sam Altman is watching the Las Vegas Grand Prix on a Google Meet. Then his phone buzzes. 4 board members have just voted to fire him, effective immediately. The public statement is vague. Altman wasn't, quote, consistently candid in his communications with the board, end quote. Translation, in corporate speak, we think he's lying to us. But the real story is even messier, and it reveals everything about OpenAI's internal chaos. It turns out the board discovered Altman secretly owned OpenAI's startup fund, a fund he claimed was independent. He'd been telling the board one thing while documents said another. The chief technology officer, Mira Murati, had been meeting with board members in secret. She told them Altman's management style was toxic, that he'd make her bring an HR rep to one-on-ones, that he'd lie about whether products needed safety reviews. The chief scientist, Ilya Sutskever, Altman's own co-founder, had been waiting years for the right moment to move against him. And here's the wild part. Microsoft found out about the firing minutes before the rest of the world. Their $13 billion partner just got fired, and nobody gave them a heads up. Microsoft stock dropped. Within hours, Altman's supporters went to war. Greg Brockman, OpenAI's president, quit in solidarity. Then more executives followed. By Monday, 700 of OpenAI's 770 employees signed a letter. Reinstate Sam or we all quit and join him at Microsoft. 700 employees out of 770. Think about what that means. Nearly every single person at the company was willing to burn it down rather than work for the board that fired him. Meanwhile, the board was so panicked, they reached out to Anthropic, OpenAI's main competitor, about a merger. One day after firing Altman, they were trying to sell the company to their rival. 5 days later, Sam Altman was back. New board, same CEO. It was the most spectacular CEO firing that ever happened, for just 5 days. The 2029 promise that nobody believes. So here we are, 2025. OpenAI projects they'll make $11.6 billion this year, triple what they made in 2024. They also project they'll lose $14.4 billion doing it. They're not just burning money, they're burning it faster as they grow. The plan, and I use that word loosely, is to reach $100 billion in revenue by 2029. At that point, maybe, possibly, they'll turn a profit. But look at the assumptions baked into that plan. They'll need to triple revenue every year for 5 years straight. They'll need to raise ChatGPT price from $20 to $44 per month and somehow keep all of their subscribers. They'll need to convince enterprises to pay billions for AI assistants that still can't reliably count the R's in strawberry. They'll need to keep Meta from giving away similar technology for free, which Meta is already doing. And they'll need to do all of this while their burn rate accelerates. The projection says they won't be profitable until 2029. Some analysts say never. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. AI might not be a good business. It's incredibly expensive to build. Competitors can copy it. Meta is literally giving it away. And after the initial wow factor wears off, it's not clear people will pay premium prices forever. Remember IBM Watson? Remember when it was going to revolutionize everything? Watson was going to cure cancer, transform healthcare, change how we think about data. Now it's a cautionary tale at business schools. So what happens next? OpenAI has 3 paths forward. Path 1, they figure out a revolutionary new business model, maybe AI agents that companies can't live without, maybe something we haven't thought of yet. Path 2, they keep raising money, another $7 billion round, then another, becoming the most expensive R&D project in human history until they finally crack profitability. Path 3, they don't make it. The money runs out. Microsoft absorbs the pieces, and we learn that building godlike intelligence is even harder than building a profitable company. Here's what keeps me up at night. OpenAI isn't just burning investor money. They're setting expectations for an entire industry. Every AI startup is now in a race to spend more, promise more, grow faster. If OpenAI, the company with Microsoft's blank check and the world's best AI researchers, can't make this work, what does that say for everyone else? Maybe AI will change the world. Maybe it'll make trillions. Or maybe we're watching the most expensive science experiment ever conducted with venture capital. The math right now says one thing clearly. $157 billion valuation, 5 billion annual losses, and nobody knows how to fix it. That's not a business. That's a very expensive bet that someone, someday, will figure out how to turn intelligence into money. Good luck to us all. What do you think is coming next? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.